So am I.
Season 5.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the final Survivor New York Season 4 Veterans vs. Contenders podcast. My name is Naomi Calhoun, but more importantly, I have an array of amazing, wonderful guests that I cannot wait to talk to. And first and foremost, it is our Lord and Savior, Chris Lord. How are you?
I'm great. I'm very excited to be here with two legendary live reality game players. Actually, three.
4.
Hang out.
I was like, who are
All
I'm
of
not
them.
gonna go that far.
Yeah,
When you
super
basically
excited.
play an LRG, you're a legend. If you're
Mhm.
Exactly.
everyone's a legend.
The community is so small.
But
Well,
I think, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, first of all, joining us, our doctor, two legends of the backyard, I would say. We have Dr. Stan. Stan, how are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here. Being on these Survivor New York podcasts forces me to watch the episodes because you know me.
Yeah, why would you have any reason to watch the episode otherwise?
I know,
can
right?
tell you.
I don't know.
And speaking of icons only, we have the fourth place finisher from Survivor New York Season 4 Veterans vs. Contenders. It's Andrea. Andrea, how are you?
I'm good. I'm thrilled to be here on this lovely Saturday night. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Great. Well, let's start off at the very beginning. Andrea, you were brought on to season 3 as a production member. And what made you want to come back and play season 4?
So actually, yeah, here's my story with Survivor. I met Dan Roder at some sort of event and learned about this whole. I think a friend of mine wanted to go to some Andrea Belty.
Yes, the Survivor People's Fan Forum.
Yeah, whatever it was. Anyway, somehow I got, and I was like, oh, so through Dan, I learned about this whole world, and I was like, I applied to season 3, but it turned out it was blood versus water, and I could not get anyone to do it with me, including my friend who dragged me to this event. She was like, no, that's weird. And I was like, well, you're dead to me, and we're no longer friends. So, not actually, but so I applied, but then I thought I'll just go do production because why the heck not? And so I showed up. I met Naomi and Chris and Stan, all of you guys for the first time. And then season 4, I was like, I'm going to apply again. I'm going to do it. I want to play. And so it was my first LRG. It was a hoot and a half. And I've got I took notes while watching this season, like abundant notes. I'm not going to speak as to my sobriety when taking all of these notes, but they were taken. And I'm here. I'm ready to talk about my game, clarify unknown unknowns, and do stuff.
Well, I have to say, Chris, I think from the moment we met Andrea, it was very clear that she was going to be on the next season, right?
I'll definitely. When she applied, it was like, okay, that's a definite yes. Because you were given drama even on season 3, I feel like. On production.
In the best way.
We loved it.
I might be a little neurotic and emotional.
That's okay. You are so entertaining, Andrea, as a person. It's incredible. And so, no question we were going to have you play season 4. I think what's even funnier is that Stan was also going to play season 4, but then he dropped out.
Who replaced
Stan?
me?
We could have worked together.
Of course.
Actually, it was TJ. TJ replaced you, Stan.
Yeah,
yes,
yep.
You already know. I'll work with whoever wants to work with me.
I would have worked with you.
100%. Naomi almost spit her drink.
That would be very chaotic.
Work with me. Hello, All-Star.
I'm not a chaotic player.
But the two of you together, that's chaotic. In a good way. I love it.
I think it'd be great.
Andrea, so you watched this season back, after it all kind of came out. How was watching it back for you?
So I was actually pretty nervous to watch it back. One of those people who sort of hates to see themselves on TV and speaking, and I also know I knew how I was perceived. I knew, as I wasn't like, I was just like worried how I was going to look on the show. And so I waited till towards the end and I just binge watched it all before the finale. So I had people texting me, and I won't name names here, being like, I'm really sorry about blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, I haven't seen any of this. But I actually really enjoyed it, and I'm actually letting my parents watch it now, which is like very dicey because my parents don't think I swear, so that's like a little delicate rope to climb. That was a really bad mixed metaphor, but anyway, so the parents, they're watching it now. We've watched 3 episodes. They're in love with it. Like, they've got all kinds of opinions. My mom loves Dresden, loves Paddock. She's like, oh my God, this girl is amazing. And I was like, yeah, she's my friend. And she's like, I can totally see why you're friends. Like, I totally get it. Like, I love her. Like, the meaner Paddock's commentary, the more my mom is like, yes.
Yeah, Paddock's kind of mean.
Yeah.
Is she?
A little bit.
I would never
show.
think that.
Well, I have to say, Stan, something you told me that is very funny is that Andrea called you after the season was over and sort of told you about the season. You also just recently watched the whole season. Can you tell me like what you expected versus what you got out of watching it?
So she basically called me because we got to know each other in season 3 on production of Survivor New York. It was you, me, and Jessica. A bunch
Trisha,
of shout out to Jessica. We got pretty close, and I moved out of New York, and then I had to back out of season 4. Andrea called me. She's like, "Oh my God, I played season 4. This is what I did, and I was like a complete villain, and whatnot." And then he called me after Survivor Brooklyn South again. That's a different story, but like I watched it fully thinking that I thought, because I forgot about how well, like what the exact place was. I knew it was 3 or 4, and then like they can't, like when Jack won Final 4 immunity, I'm like, no, they can't let Paddock to the end. So I actually thought that he got 3rd, and then like I was just kind of confused in my head, like, wait, what? And then, like, it was a tie and it went to Rocks, and I'm like, mind blown. Like,
we'll get there and we'll talk more about the end later. But I remain to this day completely perplexed that I did not get 3rd. Like, I understand from
or you would have
watching
not. You probably would have gotten 2nd or first.
at least that I didn't make it to the final. Like, but like, how they let Paddock to the end was like beyond me. But like I understand now a little bit more about her and Sarah and their pre-existing relationship. And I think had she and Sarah just met that day for the first time, Paddock would have not made it to the end. I think this was all about outside the game stuff, and like that I didn't know and couldn't control, and like it just wasn't logical for any of these people to take Paddock to the end. And so I didn't understand what the hell Sarah was doing. I was like, what? And then at first I was like, oh, well, maybe she's like voting with her and then she's gonna switch her vote because like,
she did at the final.
That would make sense.
She's trying to curry favor. And then what Jack was doing, I was like, what is this nonsense? Jack was just like creating chaos for the sake of creating chaos.
I think that would be...
I was like, what are you doing? Take me to the end, people.
I think I completely agree with what you're saying. I think the end game is you got targets like every single round. It's like, oh my God, she got like every single round. Your name was like written down.
Andrea, so I don't want to forget this question. One of my favorite things that happened between us in this season was after you pulled the rock, you look at me and you go, "Can I keep it?" And I said, "Yep." And you were like, "Hell yeah." Do you still have the rock?
I do still have the rock. It's in my apartment in New York in a little cat bowl. I still have, it's actually marble, but I still have it. I'll admit at that point, I was like a little like psychotic and emotionally drained. I was like kind of losing it. I was like, what is going on? I did not think I could win. And there was a little piece of me that like I wanted to get to the end. I mean, like I was voting in a way that I would get to the end. Like I wanted to get to the end. But there was like a piece of me that felt relief because it was like, oh, at least I'm not going to go to Final Tribal and get raked over the coals by all these people who hate me. So there was like a little bit of relief and like appreciation of the insanity of it. That said, I mean, like, I really did want to get to the end and I really did want to state my case. And like, I would have gone like full throttle at that final tribal. Like, I was like ready to give my story. Like, I would have just, I would have just talked everyone's ear off.
Yeah, so Andrea, here's a question I have, because I think what you had said to Stan was that you thought you were the villain. And I think that can be misinterpreted because you received 14 votes during the duration of the season, which is a record. But I wanted to ask you, do you think you're actually a villain in the edit, or do you think it was more so that people were coming for you time and time again, and you just seemed like the person that was snaking their way out of getting voted out?
Yeah, so I think at the time I felt like the villain. I think that watching it, I felt more like the underdog, like the charisma of the season, who is like everyone hates, but like you're not really sure why. And, like, I like it. I relate to her. So like I felt more like I was the person who, I mean, I just like kept clawing my way through. And so no, I don't really feel like the villain anymore. I feel like there are more people who, I think that people, I was just like, one thing that I regret about my game, I kind of lied too much, and I don't know how much of this you see like in, the whatever, but like I would just like straight up like blatantly lie to your face. And I know that's part of everyone's Survivor game, but I think I did it a little too much, as opposed to seeming like, oh yeah, well let me think about it, like, oh yeah, blah 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 blah. I think I would just be like, oh, that's a great idea, I'm 100% doing that.
Yeah.
And I think that pissed people off. But I think what I didn't realize, and again we'll get into this, is like a big part of my narrative and a big part of the reason like people hated me was something I didn't do. And and like I just thought people hated me because they hated me. And like that may have been a little true, but a lot of the reason people hated me is because they thought I voted for Kyle, which I didn't. And so like watching that back and understanding how significant that was as like an arc like towards like my tribe's disintegration, like was really interesting. So good on Paddock for doing that. I love her, but she's evil.
She's evil. I mean, it's such a funny thing because in Survivor, you take what opportunities you can get. And it was so funny to me because it was like, this is just full convenience level. And nobody ever considered that there might be an extra vote in the game. It's insane to me, considering like all the advantages that exist in Survivor, the fact that like the idea that an extra vote doesn't exist is so funny. But Andrea, let's start at the beginning, right?
Yeah. Let's start at the beginning.
You're on the tribe with Marilyn, Matt, Kyle, Kai, and Bennett. What do you think?
So I liked it. I had actually met Kai before the game for like, I want to say like 20 minutes. Like I had not, like we weren't friends or anything. I didn't really know her, but I had met her. Right. And the fact that like, here's someone that I've met, like I thought was really great for me because I'd never played before and I knew a lot of these people might know each other. I was excited for the tribe. So I've got my notes here. So let me tell you where to go. Yeah. There's a lot of like hearts that say, I'm like watching the episode and I'm like, Liska, heart. So I just want to say favorite things from this episode. All these people who don't know what a latrine is, I have like a lot of question making judgment about that. I would like to know that we did get gross food. We did not eat the sausages. And yeah, there's a lot of notes about a latrine here. I think that like you know, I think that I felt really good. Like the first tribal, I felt like we were slaying. God, some of these notes are like Bennett is so hot. I don't really. It's true. Like looking at him on TV is like
Speaking of beloved tribe members.
Hi,
Kyle
Kyle.
says hi.
Bennett looks like a Greek god, and I look like I just like roll. I look like a rejected like Twilight vampire. I'm no, I'm serious. Like half the notes in this are like, I am so pale! Exclamation! 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 It's like I'm freaking glowing. Like I am just like the like pasty distant cousin of the Cullens who like didn't get cast, and Bennett's on TV, like glowing, looking like, you know, he's like gonna go audition for like the, you know, freaking, I don't know, America's Next Top Survivor model. So, it was. I did enjoy watching my confessionals because I say insane things. It's like whatever comes out of my mouth.
What's the most insane thing you remember saying or that you watched?
I think they get weirder towards the end because I think I'm going slightly crazier. I'll have to take a look at my notes on that one. But I think that yes. That digging challenge, I'm sure everyone's already talked about it before. That was insane. I do remember Davey sitting on something and me trying to like shove Davey, and like me trying to push Davey was not a successful endeavor. I just like want to throw that out there. It was not good. But yeah, we didn't go to tribal till the 3rd episode, and I actually didn't realize like until I heard later how much I was the target, because I really thought it was Marilyn or Matt. And I kind of wanted it to be Matt, not Marilyn, but I felt like I had no power in this tribe. I felt like Kyle and Kai had all the power. So I was just going to do whatever Kai said, because I was like, Kai, yeah. I was like, I will do whatever you want. Like, I was really trying to curry favor with her. And so, like, I think, here's a note, there are way too many shots of my ass. So there's some like quality material in this.
All right, Stan, I want to ask you for a second. What did you think of these first 3 challenges and these first 3 vote outs? Because while they're pretty straightforward, I think there's a lot of fun in these first 3 episodes.
You need to remind me who. I forget.
So Sam goes home first.
Sam,
and that's the
Kira, Marilyn.
Yeah, Sam, Kira, Marilyn. There's the digging challenge. There's the grappling hook challenge. There's the throw-in at the targets challenge.
Oh, I remember. Well, so I was on production and I also played in season 5. So I'm not going to spoil season 5, but I remember these challenges and I was like, first of all, I'm like, oh, I should have watched Survivor New York 4 before I went on Survivor New York 5. That was one of my first. I did not watch season 4 where the challenges were used. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so dumb. But second of all, like, I mean, they were kind of expected. Like, the tribes were broken down fairly straight. I think exactly how I would figure it out. I think more of an overarching thing was the veterans versus contenders, not so much the boots. Because, like, you see in the Survivor New York, the New York Survivor community is fairly small. We get a lot of people, but like who the contenders are, and so right off the bat, in this 3 and 3 veterans and 3. Sorry, you know who the veterans are, and so there are big threats like Paddock, Sarah, Kai, like Davey. Although I think Davey was a contender and Bennett was a contender, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Bennett had never played before.
DJ had played Survivor Brooklyn South. Kai played obviously one Survivor Brooklyn South 2. There's a lot of people. Emily Forster played with me in Survivor Brooklyn South 2. So there was a lot of people, and I was like, oh my God, this is like threat central. And there could be one of 2 ways to go about it: is the threats stick together and just pick off the other folk, or people go after the threats because they're big targets early on. And really, I think the veterans kind of showed their their prowess here by virtually almost sticking together and be like, well, Bennett, I remember in your tribe, Andrea, because I was just watching Blue, I was your deep dive. So Bennett and Kai like paired up fairly early on, and I think Bennett was saying, listen, I'm a big threat. I know I haven't really played before, but Kai seems to be someone who, like, knows how to play the game, and I think by virtue of that, it was difficult to kind of shake them, and they just ended up picking whoever. And I think Andrea was kind of on the bottom of that, right? You were on the outs initially in your blue tribe, and like had you lost a couple, like one or two more tribals, I don't know if you'd be sitting here. But fortunately, after the 3, they swapped right away, and they had that 7-7 with Paddock going to Exile Island, and that was kind of like the first time we get to see Crazy Paddock.
So, well, I will say I thought I was higher ranked than I really was on the blue tribe. Like I thought if we'd gone to another tribal, they would have cut Matt, and I didn't realize they would have cut me. I didn't realize, like I said, I didn't realize how much I was the target that early on. Again, because I thought that like so much, I was so wrapped up in like Kai, I'll do whatever you say, like that. I just like couldn't really imagine that they would cut me when I was like so blatantly like being like, yes, I will follow you.
My question, Andrea, about that is like, so there's this whole thing of like Kai's doing the girls alliance and then votes out Marilyn. How did you feel about that? Because if someone came up to me and said, let's do a girls alliance, and then the next move was, I think we have to vote out a girl, I would kind of feel like, well, what the hell's going on here? Also, hello to Reynolds, who's watching.
What up, Reynolds? What up? I miss you. Hang out soon.
I never felt that like I got like clarity from Kai on whether it was going to be Matt or Maryland. Or Maryland, not Maryland, the state. We're not exiling states from.
We're not Survivor Maryland, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, well, I just like, so I guess that I wasn't as worried as I should have been. Now there are points where I become worried and I was exactly right to be worried, but it was that first tribal I went to, I wasn't as worried as I should have been watching it back. I would like to say that I slayed those summer skis. I was great. Like we did not fall once, and I want to brag on that because like I've seen that 2 seasons now, and everybody else is like falling on.
Yeah, you guys crushed it.
We freaking crushed it. I was great at summer skis, so I just want to toot my own horn that way.
It's a great point, Andrea, and I want to ask you because the very next thing that happens is you swap, and the Liska lie. Okay, because this is one of my favorite moments that I didn't actually get to see happen, and then got to see about it later in the season. What was going on for you? Did you believe that was? I feel like you're somebody like me who would hear that and go, okay, that sounds reasonable, and then someone else would go, no, that's insane, and I go, you're right, that is insane.
I wrote in my notes on this one. Wait, what did I wrote? I don't remember exactly, but Liska. Oh, I wrote Liska. Your story was so bad. Like I did not believe it at all. It felt rehearsed completely. And like Liska is someone that since I have become friends with, but this was the first time I met Liska, and she's telling this like BS story that I'm like, that sounds like she's like sat around and practiced it. And I was like, I don't believe this at all. Now, there was another sort of slice of that is I had also briefly met Emily Forrester before. So really my analysis were like, had I seen you at a bar, yes or no?
Well, in the words of Sandra Diaz-Twine, when you're shoved in the game together, it's who you know that you work with, or paraphrasing Sandra. I don't know the exact term.
It's
who you know.
So I was like, Emily. So like immediately I go up to Emily and Alejandro and I start kissing their asses. And like, I think the swap was actually a really interesting episode for me in terms of like how the rest of the game shook out. Kyle wanted, and I haven't watched his thing yet, I'll admit, but like from my memory, Kyle wanted to go with orange and I wanted to go with pink. And I said to Kyle, pink will all be huge targets at the merge. These people, Alejandro, Davey, Emily, will all be huge targets at the merge. So we want to take them to the merge because they're going to cannibalize each other and destroy each other, which actually ended up being correct. But I started like, Emily I had met, Alejandro, I was like, oh, you're great. I also notes on this page, I am like a glowing orb. But I think that like this is where a lot of decisions, kind of got made, and the whole game would have been different had we went with Liska and Dresden. And I don't really, I don't really know how to fully what if that scenario, but it ended up being that, we went with Pink, and at the merge, Pink were all like those, Alejandro and co were all huge targets. And so it was easy to just like continue not getting voted out. I wouldn't say easy.
What do you think of the idea that Kyle wanted to go with Pink, or Kyle wanted to go with Orange versus Pink? Because you talked to him on Tuesday.
I was shocked, and I was so interested to hear from Andrea about like why she decided to stick with Pink, because I to this day never understood it. Like I felt like logically it would have made sense, like because they had said how Blue was really the threat. Like I would have thought Blue would have been the target, but for them to end up being the swing vote and for Andrea to want to stick with Pink was just shocking, because I think it made more sense for Orange and Blue to team up against a 3 at that point. But Andrea, if you want to explain that further, that would be great.
So
but
Orange was going to come back into the game. And so, like, I didn't want it to be suddenly 3 Orange and 2 Blue. So I think you've got to vote out Liska on that first vote, especially with her shady story about the idol Sam having it.
But when Powder came in, was your thought to just stick with Pink completely, or did you ever think like, okay, maybe now I could possibly do something?
I think in retrospect, it would have made sense to say, oh, Pink made us do this. They're running everything. Dresden. The problem is Dresden didn't trust us. Like, Dresden had but I kind of totally botched that line to Dresden. Like, Dresden was a straight shooter. And so, like, I wasn't going to repair that relationship. And I'm not sure Dresden would have ever voted with me and Kyle. So in a like abstract logical scenario, I think like you vote out Liska and then you pair with Emily and Dresden to axe a Pink.
Right.
But Dresden, I'm pretty sure, like was in full survival mode at that point and
was not happy with you guys.
Not happy with me and Kyle. And like, so I'm not really sure how that would have played out. And I really did just kind of want to like hide behind Emily.
My question, Stan, for you is: let's say you don't know anybody on this tribe, right? Even though you do, but let's say you don't. Who do you go with if you're in Andrea's spot and you have one member of your own tribe, 2 people on one side and 3 people on the other, with somebody from Orange coming in? What do you do?
I mean, for me, how I would play is whoever I vibe with, I think the best. I wouldn't necessarily pick a side. I know Liska, I know Dresden, I know Andrea, I don't know Kyle.
You know Emily, you know Alejandro.
I know Emily, I know Alejandro. Oh, that'd be tough. You know exactly what I would do though. Oh,
well,
I'll do whatever you guys want. I'm good as long as it's not me.
And I will say, I feel like
exactly that. I don't know who. I don't think Andrea would have targeted me. I don't think Emily F would have targeted me. I don't think Alejandro would have targeted me. Dresden, Liska would have now because I know them. But before, if I don't know anyone, it's who I would vibe with as a person. Like if I felt good with a 3 or felt good with a 2, and actually I would defer a lot to whoever I was partnered up with. I think a tribe swap in a in a 3 tribe game is really interesting because unlike in a 2 tribe game, you have people coming from 2 sides and there's clear numbers like 5-3 versus 4-4 or like whatever, or 3 like 6-1 or 5-2. But in a tribe, in an original tribe of 3, and you swap into 2 tribes, there's always going to be that dynamic of there's 3 tribes coming in no matter which combination. I don't think I would have picked Orange specifically because of Paddock coming back. If anything, it could have been maybe I would just vibe with Emily F and Alejandro better and take out the orange. I don't know. I really don't know. It's so hard. It's so hard to like do, and
That's
it's gonna.
why we present the scenarios, Stan.
What do you want me to do? What if
I
I
think-
think not for me?
I
then
think in a what if scenario, I always play is what if Liska never lied? Because I feel like Liska is a very charming person. I feel like if Liska never lied, Dresden does go home with an idol, and I think that that's someone that Andrea could have easily worked with because I feel like the two of them could have easily become really good friends. I don't know if they would have made an alliance, but I think they would have at least been able to have more of a conversation than Andrea and Dresden were able to have.
I think the fact I just like never gave Liska a chance because like she immediately came out with this like really elaborate lie and I was like no.
Yeah.
And so I felt like she was hiding something. I didn't know what exactly. And I just like totally wrote her off working with her where she's somebody I'm friends with now. And I would feel differently. So she had never lied. I mean, it's also like I had met Emily Forrester and like I wanted to work with her but I could have you know if I could have been convinced to like vote out you know Davey or Alejandro. Like I thought Alejandro was a huge threat, but
Yeah.
I mean part of it is like I really did want to go to the I mean there was a logical flaw in my game. I was playing the game to get to the end, not to win. And I mean, like in terms of like how I wanted to go to the merge with all these huge threats because I knew they would all attack each other and like in my head they wouldn't be voting for me. Whoops, that was wrong. But then I didn't sort of think about the fact that they would all be on the jury and that they would like want to vote for other people who are also considered huge threats. And I had 0.0 jury management skills.
But I think a couple of things that I would like to point out here. Number one is lying. There's a way to lie, but I think you hit the nail on the head earlier, Andrea. Is this excessive, unnecessarily unnecessary? If it's a lie, which it's Survivor, you have to lie. But if it's necessary for your game, you can explain it like that makes sense. Then fine, I think people would understand that. But if you like flat out lie, like Liska didn't have to lie. She didn't have
It's
to say
true.
anything. She didn't have to say anything.
Well, and I think that like all of this is really what Kyle talked about in the last podcast was that he was going with you, Andre. He was just going to do what you wanted to do, and you were making the decision. But I think to an extent, you guys are also letting Pink make the decision to be the threats, and I think it is in a lot of ways, Andre, the correct strategy. You just were not able to rebound to the orange come the second opportunity to vote somebody out. I want to jump to a second, Andrea, for when Matt goes home. What were you thinking about that? Because Matt was going to be somebody you were potentially going to vote out next. What was that like for you?
First of all, I want to say one more thing about this episode. I remember in this episode, Kyle saying like Andrea and I are on the bottom, and I was like, oh my God, no one believes this, Kyle. What are you doing? Everyone would believe that I was on the bottom, but no one would believe that Kyle, like human golden retriever, was on the bottom. Like Kyle is like adorable and likable. Like nobody's gonna think that Kyle's on the bottom. So I was like, oh, they're not gonna buy this. This looks bad. Whereas like I don't think that they bought that Kyle was on the outs, and I don't know. Anyway, I just want to put that.
Bennett was in charge. It couldn't have been me.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I do think that they bought Bennett was in charge, but I just don't think that like in any. I think that like if you look at that tribe, like you can like it's like okay, I was on like the like high school like it's like if you put my tribe in high school, the people who were cool in high school were on the top, and the people who were not cool in high school were on the bottom. And I will tell you right now, I was not cool in high school. In fact, in elementary school, when we had schoolyard games, I got picked like last or second to last for kickball. It was like me and the kid who ate his own boogers. So I want to put that out there.
Is he
We were
interested
like,
in season 6?
what's that?
Andrea, were you not the last blue left standing though? Is
I
it
was the last blue left
so
standing.
it's Revenge of the Nerds, is it not?
We'll get to that, but like this whole season, it kind of is Revenge of the Nerds. But
Yeah, I know, right? Because, and I would like to point out, I guess, just jumping down the line, there were cuts. I think 8 and 7 and 6 and 5 were people that 9 and 8, Bennett and Kai, and Davey and
7 and 6 were Davey and Alejandra.
Right, those were the bigger targets, allowing you guys to just dance the 5 by putting bigger targets in front of you, right?
I want to ask Andrea really quickly. The double idol play tribal. How shocking was that to witness?
So I was stunned. So let's see. I'm sorry. I'm just looking at some of my other funny quotes about Paddock. I wrote. There's a part where I say in the episode, she told everyone she was 20 years old. That's insane.
And yes. One of my favorite quotes because it's true. It's just true. She's 20.
It's true. But like, it was actually brilliant because like it was both insane and brilliant at the same time because I thought like saying something like that would make her a target. Whereas, like, it was brilliant because it made people underestimate her. So all I knew about her coming into our tribe after we voted out Liska was that she was 20 years old. And I was like, why would she tell everybody that she's the youngest person? That seems crazy. She must be crazy. And, like, it took me a while to realize, like, how, like, genius she was. And anyway, her underestimating strategy. The double idol. So I thought we all thought that Paddock had an idol, but nobody thought that Dresden had an idol because like we thought he would have played it the previous tribal if he had it. And so, you know, I think like, you know, when we split the vote there and Emily goes home, I was stunned. Like I was completely stunned. Like, and Kyle, I think that really bonded me and Kyle for one tribal until they turned us against each other. Like, cause we were like, oh my God, we were totally blindsided. And Emily of all the pinks was the one that I was like most like wanting to follow. And so like when she was cut, you know, I didn't have the same kind of relationship with Davey and Alejandro that I had with her. So it was just like completely mind blowing, but it also kind of, I really never deviated from my strategy of go to the merge with these pink people because everybody's going to want to vote them out immediately because like they're all considered huge threats and bye. Whereas if I went to the Burge with Liska and Dresden, people would be saying like blue sucks, get rid of blue. Like pink became the new blue in a, you know, kind of color wheel way.
But after Emily goes, did you have a mental consideration like, okay, if we lose again, I'm going to stick with pink? Or do you remember thinking about that at all? Because at that point, 2 people both played an idol. Wouldn't that make their threat level go like way up in comparison to like Davey and Alejandro at that point?
I think my opinion is people just got like googly eyes over targeting 2 big threats like Alejandro or Davey, and they actually lost sight of Paddock and Sarah. Andrea kind of just like dancing on. But I honestly, you say that you probably didn't have a shot to win. I beg to differ. I think if you got one of the final 3 spots, I don't think you would have necessarily had an easy win, but that would have been in lieu of one of Paddock or Sarah. Now, if you were there, I think you would have a story. I think if you said your story well, because you were, although they did, I don't know what the jury was thinking. I don't know. Like juries are a fickle thing in Survivor. They might have just been like, I'm not voting for her, and like wiped you out immediately. But I think from the episodes and edit alone, I think if you could have eloquently said your piece, you might have had a chance.
Yes. And well, first of all, this is something that Davey talked about in his episode. He said that he would have tried to give Andrea more of a chance at the final tribal council. But I think, Andrea, that what is great about your game is also, I think, what Jack did in a lot of ways, which was I have my alliance partner. I'm going to branch out and gain more alliance members, and then I'm going to follow my exact plan. I think if you get to the end and you say my plan was to vote out the threats and y'all are on the jury, I think first of all everybody loves to be called a threat when they're voted out of the game, but also that they would have understood that because you had so much thrown against you. Like Jack had some votes cast against him; he was always available to be voted out, but you were really getting the brunt of it, but you never really like something I think so. Like we saw in this most recent episode of Survivor, like Tiffany's paranoid about the votes being on her, but you were never really paranoid about getting the votes. You were just like, it is what it is. I'm gonna stick with my alliance. You never let that sort of ruin your experience. Can you talk to me a little bit more about that?
That's something Paddock and I have talked about after the fact. Like, I never was like really pushing back on being the decoy. I was like, they're gonna vote for me. Like it almost like created like my story more. Like it was like everybody's voting for me, whatever, I don't care. Like I just kind of rolled with it. I think that like in some ways Jack and I were both in a similar spot in the game, but in some ways we weren't, because I think that like there's something that like Adam Klein said in one of his interviews about Winners at War, where he was like he was like, if I like, he was like terrified that he was going to get like dragged to the end as a goat. And so he was going to do everything in his power to just like burn shit down.
The scorched strategy is a valid strategy.
Yeah. And so like, that's kind of how I felt. Like I knew that people wanted to drag me to the end as a goat, but I was going to like fight. I was going to be dragged to the end, but I was going to do it and just like burn everything in my path.
And take down the people that potentially could win. Because if you sat at the end with people that you can potentially beat, like I think you would have beaten Jack. I think, I don't know who else in the.
I think I could have beaten Emily or Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that in my head, I knew I couldn't beat Emily. I vastly underestimated Sarah's game and how the jury would perceive Sarah's game. And I think Sarah would have swept it if I had gone to the end with Jack and Sarah, as should have happened. That said, like, I think that my strategy was like, go to the merge with all of these huge threats and let them cannibalize each other. Like, it worked, but it also didn't work because I'm not sure that those people would have voted for me or respected my game, as opposed to someone like Sarah, who played like a little bit more of a like stealthy, under the radar or whatever.
Well, let's talk even before we get to the end about Dresden going home, because I think this is really the change in the wins in your sales to say, because what happens, Andrea, is like this crazy thing where because there's an extra vote cast, people think that you flipped, and you never stray away from saying, I didn't flip. You don't. And Kyle's like, it's fine. But what I'm so fascinated by is that like you don't flip, you stick strong, and they still sort of lambast you for it. And actually, this is something I think is partially why people almost would have maybe not voted for you. It's just because they didn't believe you, but you were telling the truth the whole time.
I was telling the truth.
Wait, can I ask you really quickly? Everybody believed, even I at the point, almost believed that you voted for Kyle. What did you believe happened? I never knew the answer to this. What do you believe happened at that time?
Me being an idiot, I should have thought about the possibility, but I thought like, I mean, I had these like elaborate conspiracy theories that like I knew it wasn't me, and I knew Kyle didn't vote for himself. So I thought either Davey or Alejandro. I thought either Alejandro A could have voted for Kyle and then created like played an idol on him in order to like create paranoia and like make Kyle feel indebted to him, but also like save Kyle for the vote. And then I thought either maybe I thought like he or Davey was playing some kind of, I think I say this in the confessionals, like one of them was playing some kind of like next level chess here. Like I didn't consider the extra vote. I thought they were doing some kind of like crazy move to create chaos, even though they knew that like Kyle would be safe. What I didn't consider was that Emily was the one doing the crazy move to create chaos, or not even really deliberately create chaos, but it just like didn't occur to me. And I think that like, I just I also thought that I convinced Kyle at some point that like I was telling the truth. And I think he kind of believed me at some point. But then Bennett and Kai got to him. They're like, she's lying. She's lying. And I was like, I'm not lying. But I didn't know. But I mean, like Bennett would, come in to me like, you can confess. Just like, and I was like, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. So it was maddening. I didn't realize how big of a narrative it would be.
I don't think we did either. I think especially when it was happening, like we're just like, oh yeah, 5 votes. Like there you go. That's the funniest thing I've found about being on production is that when there's an extra vote and it goes kind of wonky and everybody doesn't know what's going on, you're always laughing because you're like, I know exactly what just happened and y'all are crazy. Stan, did you expect this to be as big of a thing as it was? Like the vote doubling that just turned into Andrea is a rat and we must vote her out immediately.
It's crazy because people cling to these ideas. And that's why so one of my friends gave me a really good tip. Taylor Gaby. She was like, you seem like a smart player. Or not me, but like anyone who seems like a smart player. Throw a completely random thing that could not be traced back to you. And when that can't be traced back to you, everyone's going to think about everything and make conspiracy theories. And that will just like fuel craziness and more paranoia and more like chaos. And unfortunately, Andrea, you got the brunt end of that chaos. But like, yeah,
I thought that's what somebody was doing. I just didn't realize it
a
was
random planted vote. Oh, right. And that person, if I'm in the majority of 5 and I knew something was going to happen, and I knew that if I threw my vote to something in a perfectly timed fashion, if you throw it every single time, like for sympathy, whatever, it doesn't. But if you throw it perfectly at a right time where no one expects you to do it or no one expects anything to happen, and then just stimulates paranoia, I think that's a job well done. And that might be because people are gonna cling on to anything. People are gonna cling onto any, like if you watched Survivor 41, like they clinged on the fact that Tiffany, I guess, clinged on the fact that Xander had an idol. I'm like, ooh, like it has to, whether and when Evie was like, no, I read the clue, like whatever, but like it's so when you play, especially these live games, it's so hard because we don't have time. And Survivor New York's 2 days, and it's go 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 go. Some games are even faster. You don't have time to do your due diligence and cross check and actually sit down and be like, wait, but is this person actually like telling the truth? And if it's not you that's on the chopping block, or not you getting the target of this random thing, I'll take it. Like you guys can go crazy.
Stan, something I wanted to bring up is just I guess this idea that like, oh my god, wait, no, I had it and then it went away. No. Targets. Well, I guess it's like shit. It has to come back to me. Chris, I wanted to ask you. Let's
don't Survivor New York 5, Naomi.
I know you guys asked me about the Matt vote out, so let me answer.
Yeah, go back to that while I think about what the fuck I was trying to say.
Yeah, whatever you're talking about. So first of all, I will say we picked Matt we picked Matt for that bucket challenge. He was so angry. He was so angry. Matt was somebody that I was like never. I'm like, we were never like aligned on blue, and like I felt like he never trusted me and I never trusted him, and like when he got voted out, I didn't really care. I was like, great, whatever. It wasn't like, oh, somebody from my tribe is voted out. I was like, yeah. When I watched it back, that is the thing in this whole season. I'm sure other people have said this. When I watch it back, I am like, what? I still don't understand what happened that tribal. I don't have no idea why Matt was voted out. I don't get it, but it worked for me because Matt was never going to work for me. Like, so I didn't really care, but I still don't get it.
Well, Chris, I wanted to ask you, when you saw the outcome of like Andrea getting targeted, and then the next day, oh no, I remember what I wanted to say. Chris, this is for you. You said something to me that was very interesting, which is that people don't lie in live reality games, and it's the Andrea lying about Bennett's idol clue. This whole kerfuffle that happens between Andrea and Bennett. I think what we had come to the agreement was that nobody lies in live reality games, and it's so refreshing to see somebody just say, fuck it, I'm gonna lie to this person. Am I wrong, Chris?
No, I mean, it's so exciting that, okay, if you're gonna play these games, you have to understand you're part of a product. I'm sorry, it's the reality of it. Like Survivor is looking for people to be a part of their product, and Andrea knew the assignment. She knew that. I don't know if it was just natural for her or like she had planned to do something like this, but it's like she doesn't know when the next opportunity she's going to have a chance to do something like this. She can play however she wants to play, and she took it to the total limits and beyond. And it was so much fun to watch it in person, and it was so much fun to like see the footage and see all the storyline behind it and then piece it together and create it into an episode. So it's like, if anyone ever goes to do these games, like think about doing stuff like that. Not in a way that it will hurt you to lose the game, but in a way that's entertaining for everybody watching, including the people on production. Because, okay, maybe you don't win the game, but you go down as a very memorable person. And I don't think one person that watched the season can forget who Andrea is.
It's true. I think it's true. Paranoia, woo. Like, it's my favorite.
I like can't play the game that you like. I would just would crash and burn and like rip everyone to shreds. Like, I don't know. Like, if I have a meeting, I'm like, I have a meeting. You screw you, motherfuckers that are targeting me. I'm kidding. I don't. But I mean, it's you guys have a good point. Like, lie in live reality games. In my opinion, like I respect people so much that it's hard for me to lie to them, A, and B, it'll just come back and haunt you. Like,
well, I don't know. I find if you're playing fake Survivor and you don't like lying to people, then you're lying to yourself. Lying to people is the best part. It's just snaking somebody and pulling the wool over their eyes.
The whole thing stemmed from season 3 with the fog and the log clue. And I always on production thought that was the stupidest fake clue I've ever heard. But there was a real clue that they lied about. And I was like, so like the first night ends, like we go, we're on that like swapped tribe where it's me. Oh, I was so mad when Kyle put me on that tribe. That was me, Kyle, Alejandro, and Davey. And I was like, we're losing and I'm going home. We are so toast. Why am I on this tribe? I hate you, Kyle. So I was so angry. And I had started to notice at this point, it was like all girls going home. And I was like, pissed about that. And so like the next morning I wake up and like, I'm basically, first of all, I don't wake up. I want to be clear, like for anybody who
we heard this story from a couple people, but I want to hear it from you.
Okay. I'm sorry I haven't watched enough of these. It was because I was like binge watching the whole season.
There were literally like 20 episodes of this podcast. It's okay.
Yeah. So I don't wake up. And like I slept like a rock. Like I was out and like somebody had to come wake me up and get me out of the tent. And I was like, I was like out of it. I was completely gone. And then I was like, fuck, I'm like totally behind. So I felt like I was like really screwed. So it's about this time that I'm thinking like, okay, I need to start doing something other than, and I was like, the fog and the log clue, man. I was like, I gotta revive that. And so I thought the better version of that clue was you're about to be chopped, which first of all is a great clue and y'all should have written. Second of all, is like, I don't know that I executed this perfectly. Like, I think I should have made, in fact, let's rephrase. I definitely did not execute this perfectly, but like, I maybe should have, like, I don't know, had somebody that I confided in that this wasn't real, as opposed to just telling everyone that it was real. But like, the chief target, like, at the end, I wanted it to get to Bennett. And Bennett was like looking around trees, and I wanted to create paranoia around the fact that Bennett had like this idol that he had found in the wood, in some kind of tree or some kind of wood. And then I like told everyone in trouble, I was like, Bennett, you know, I saw him in this tree, like blah, blah, blah. I mean, I'm just like going all in on this. And everybody believed, like, Bennett believed me. Bennett thought the clue was real. And it was just like something I made up to like get everybody to vote for Bennett. It was fun. I liked it.
Stan, do you remember the iconic last night there was a fog look under a log clue from your own buddy
Yeah.
Sam?
That was Sam, I think, right?
Yep. Sam and Hoy.
Sam and Hoy.
It was Sam and Hoy, and it was a bad fake clue that I can't believe anyone from season 3 bought, yet they bought it. And I was like, if they're gonna buy this lame shit, like, they're definitely gonna buy You're About to Be Chopped. So
Yeah, you lucked out because season 3 had not come out yet. I feel like if it had come out, you couldn't have used it. But
no,
like,
no.
Yeah,
you're not gonna see Stan using,
five,
you know,
they
You're
can,
About to
they?
Be Chopped on season 4 or season 5.
I wonder who's gonna fall for that in season
I'm
5.
disappointed because, well, I guess it's not really a spoiler, but I don't think there's a fake clue in season 5. So it doesn't live on. It's sad, but I'm so glad.
There need to be more fake clues, more fake. I mean, just like, yeah.
Anyway,
I'm. While this was executed chaotically, I enjoyed executing it, and I thought it, you know, it brought a lot of joy to me. That said, this is all happening around the point that everyone has decided that I have flopped on Kyle, that I am bad and evil and not to be trusted, and they've got like Kyle and Kai and Bennett are all like, get rid of her. And so like, I feel like in the chaos, I somehow survived the merge boot. It's somehow Billy. I don't know how it's Billy, but I hadn't talked to Billy or had any relationship with Billy. So like, yeah, I'm going to vote for Billy. You know, I'm wearing 2 sets of pants. Some more notes about Twilight. I can't spell Paddock. I did vote for Paddock in that Dresden split vote tribal. That was my one vote for Paddock. So it's interesting that I end up working with her because I was like trying to vote her out. And then like day 2, all of a sudden, I think a lot of this happens around touchy subjects time. That like it distills in me like where I stand and who the other people are that are on the bottom. And it's like a moment of like lightning clarity that I'm like, these people are my new allies. And so like Paddock and Sarah and Jack, I mean, I was like the number 1, like raked over the coals target at touchy subjects. But like Paddock and Sarah and Jack also got a lot of heat. And I was like, great, I'm going to work with these people. And so like when we get to that tribal, that Bennett is like, there are 4 people on the top and like blah, blah, blah. And I was like, he's so right. Bennett is so right. Yes, I'm one of those 4 people.
Okay, well, first of all, I wanted to before we talk about this, because I do think this is one of my favorite parts of the whole season is this alliance that forms. Stan, I wanted to get your opinion on the merge, and I would say kind of the pagonging of the winning tribe of the 4-4-4 swap, because to me, losing Billy and TJ was pretty obvious. But Paddock is almost also the merge vote. I just want to talk to you about the merge vote because that was such a fun, chaotic moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think the merge was really interesting because when you have 3 tribes that are from, you know, working together, I guess, on day 1, and in Survivor New York, you merge at night 1, and day 2 is usually a completely different game. Historically, you know, it's crazy because there was such an interplay, and I keep on coming back here, like previous connections. I think there was a lot of previous connections that kind of came into play. I think Paddock and Sarah clearly bonded with each other, and I think if you guys have that, and then when you have that kind of alliance, well, Sarah isn't getting rid of Paddock this early on, and Paddock is kind of insulated in that sense. And then there's Bennett and Davy that, although they started in different tribes, they probably wouldn't got after each other. Davy just went after Bennett when he had no real choice. But I think early on, you still try to protect who you're kind of friends with and who you know, and the person that goes home at merge is someone who has the least amount of social capital, I think, given the 444, given the pre-existing relationships, given the intertribal relationships. And I think merge votes are really interesting because people are really preserving them, self-preservation. I was merge boot once in Real Foot 6. I was the merge boot because I talked too much. And I was in the
Oh my god,
minority.
Stan, you talk too much?
No, I don't actually. I'm an active
Stan,
listener.
I don't relate to that at all. I just want to say,
I'm an active listener.
Let's not tell me more.
You
But
are a
no,
good listener, Stan. That's absolutely true.
no, I think I got merged boot because I didn't have the numbers. They were planning on keeping. There was an alliance of 6 men, the Bros in Real Foot, and we are outnumbered 7-6. And the reason that the 7 of them came together because there was a 6 of us, that was obvious, and they were gonna keep me till the end because some of the girls wanted to work with me. But when I didn't have a number, I started talking and tried to scramble for my alliance, which is the wrong move. You just let them go. The right move is let them go, because you don't have any. But I felt like people just kind of all agreed, hey, let's all save ourselves. Let's all take out the head of the snake at that time, like 5 years ago. And then I got cut off. But like people at the merge want to find a reason to not make it themselves, and B, find a target that everyone kind of agrees with.
Well, I think that's absolutely correct, Stan, because in this vote, right, Billy, it's Billy versus Paddock. So Paddock she's not going to bother to save Billy or TJ. She says, fuck it, I'll go with this new alliance. And she makes the pivot successfully, and it's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and she used her Sarah connection perfectly, I think, in that move. Like, Paddock's is, very, very smart player.
Next level.
I think she knows that, and like how does she get all the way to the final 5 of Brooklyn South?
Oh my god, I was like,
how?
I talked to her about that, because I didn't know her before this game.
Like, she could have gotten like 3 wins. If she won 2 more immunity challenges, she'd have been 3-time winner in the same state.
Yeah, it's only New York.
Yeah,
she doesn't even.
Andrea, I want to know when, because you vote for Paddock, you never were really with her, but when did your relationship with Paddock like really become like this solidified bond? Because I feel like at one point there was like no footage of you guys together, and then all of a sudden I'm looking at the footage and it's like you guys are so tight together. And if you watch the playground where everyone's strategizing, I see you both running together all around behind everybody, just running together, and everyone's seeing you guys like run around, and everyone's like, what's going on with those two? And then I also want to know, like, when did your relationship with Kyle, because you guys have played the entire game together, when did it kind of like unglue? So the Paddock, when did it glue, and Kyle, when did it unglue?
So I think Kyle never really trusted me after the whole kerfuffle. But I think it really started. I think those things kind of happened simultaneously, and I don't know if it's the Billy vote or the TJ vote. Like, I think that, like, and there's that stray vote for Jack in the merge vote that everybody starts trying to blame on me. Eventually, like, I don't know what it is exactly but it's like, I sort of like, I know I wrote in my notes here, the first time I ever felt like I really think it's me was the TJ vote, which is after the Bennett, or after the whatever vote. And I was like shaking because I was like, it's me. I know it's me. And I think it was like around that time that I was like really started becoming close with Paddock. I think we just like gelled. Like, I think we're people who do get along in the real world. And like, and I think that like by that point, like, and you see all those confessionals where like, or not confessionals, but like interactions where Kai and Bennett are like telling Kyle like not to trust me and that it wasn't me. And Kyle's like, no, she said she was, and they're like, she did it. Like, and so like I think there was like a point where Kyle started, and I don't know exactly the timing, started acting like more distant to me. And I was like, what's your deal? And then I started like gelling with Paddock. And then, you know, like I was like, I wrote episode 10, Paddock, I was so with you at this point. Like it's somehow in a matter of like a couple votes goes from me voting for her to me being like, I will die for you.
Well,
Paddock
I
just
think
has that natural charm.
she
really
does. I also think, Andrea, you mentioned it earlier, but I do think it's a fair point, is that all women had been voted out up until Matt goes home, and then it was all men. And really, there was the sense of like, okay, Kai was the sort of the last woman in the opposition, so Kai goes home. And then I think to an extent, you were protecting Sarah and Paddock and yourself as the last woman in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was a great, it's like a great example of how like women's alliances kind of work at the end of the game. They sort of like, when there is this moment of like, hey, the men are going to pick us off if we're not careful, it is a really interesting manifestation of women's alliances. And I know lots of people were fans of this alliance, I would say.
I was, so I felt, I mean, like we also, it all comes up as we're like, you know, like several of us mentioned in the commercials, I was like, all the women are voted out. And I say like, oh, there's no women's alliance, where I'm thinking like, I got to do a women's alliance now, because like, so I don't think, first of all, I think what's going on in Survivor 41 right now is like not so bad idea. Like, I don't know how you guys feel about it, so tell me, but I feel like this like Evie, Tiff, Liana alliance is like a real terrible self-immolation. And like my parents are screaming at their TV, like, what are you doing? I was watching it with them and I was like, yeah.
I'm very biased because I'm Team Voce.
I was loved Voce. My parents love Voce.
I mean,
how dare you?
He lives, he trains in Nashville, like a couple hours from me. Like he's
oh my god, so you know him?
No, I just DM'd him in his Instagram, and he's like, "What up?"
I wanted to say my piece that I think it's extremely smart for Evie and Liana, because if there is no swap and Xander and Tiffany do go home and those two are on the swap, they become the viable options for everybody to use, and they know it. So it's in a way, it's so smart for them. It's not smart for Tiffany and Xander.
Not smart for Tiffany. I completely agree with that, Chris. When you know, when we broke it down for the episode, it makes sense for Evie, because Evie is looking out for her own game, and she will be the last one standing in Yasa.
Correct.
Because they can vote out either Tiffany or Xander, sitting duck Xander next, and then they take the other person out and leaving.
I get it if your strategy.
Become a Survivor actual recap podcast.
It is a moment.
Over an hour.
I just want to.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I get if your strategy is like to intentionally Matt sing, as they say, but I feel like their strategy is to take Tiffany all the way with them, and that is a terrible freaking idea.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of Voce's interviews, like, they tried to suggest an intentional Matt sing, and I'm like, there's 5 of you, only 2 people are like, what the fuck is going on?
It was bad.
Andrea, right. I want to ask you, did you, I feel like through your confessionals, you felt like you had no chance of winning. I think it was like Final 7, you were talking to Kyle, you said it in the confessional. Like, how do you play? I mean, I haven't, I'm not trying to be cocky, but I haven't had that experience where I know at like Final 7 that I have no shot of winning, but I know I'm getting close to the end. Like, how do you play the game with this ideology that you have no chance to win?
I wanted to burn it down behind me. I mean, like that was basically it. Is like I was like, so we're there. I mean, like we're at that point where Bennett's saying like there are 4 people, you know, or there are 4 people on the top, blah blah blah. And I was like, yes, that's true. Like it's us. Like it's like, and he called us the misfit toys, which I love. Like I was like, I mean, like this was like, it was like goats are us. Like I mean, it was like all the people. Like people were actively saying like, you don't want Andrea and Jack to get to the end, like, ugh. And so I was like, those are the people I want to go to the end with. I wanted to try. I mean, like, I did not think I could win in any scenario, but I was gonna try, and I was gonna try to get to the end with the people I thought I had the best odds of at least getting votes against. I did not think everyone on that jury loved Kyle, loved like Davy and Alejandro. Like they were gonna like sweep it. And so like why would I want to just like go be their goat? And I think that was like the flaw in the Blue Tribe's logic is like they were like angry that I didn't want to be their goat. And like I wanted to like, I mean, I knew I was going to be someone's goat, but I wanted to choose whose goat I was going to be.
I didn't think you were necessarily. I don't know. Did they really hate you, the jury?
I mean, me and I have talked to everybody. We pretty much have gotten the conclusion that Andrea was not going to get any votes. It was always going to be Sarah or Paddock. But I do think that's very interesting, Andrea, that you said, you know what, if I'm not going to win, I'm going to help decide who is going to win. It reminds me of like San Juan del Sur, like Missy and Jacqueline kind of got to choose if Natalie was going to win or Keith was going to win. And you kind of had that same decision. You could sit there and you could have stuck with Davey, Alejandro, and Kyle, said, you know what, I want one of these guys to win. Or you could have said Paddock and Paddock and Sarah, and you chose.
Yeah.
I think you had the most power at the final 7 for sure. And you decided that one of these girls was going to win.
I did. I knew that I wanted one of the underdogs to win. I knew that I wanted the Girls Alliance. I wanted it to be us 3 at the end. I thought that Paddock and Sarah had the best, like, I just like wanted one of them to win. And like, it became really, I mean, like, it, you know, after that final 7 where Bennett gets voted out, it's like, I mean, it's exactly like Bennett said. It's like, you know, there's Alejandra and then there's Davey and then there's Kyle. And it's like, yeah, it's the misfit toys at the end. And it was really hard for me, like, to decide at that final 4, like when Jack won, because I really did just want to go to the end with girls at that point. I mean, it wasn't like, I mean, like, I wanted to do the Girls Alliance. I felt like we got even more heat than Jack did in Touchy Subjects. And I just like, again, this was just like a total revenge of the nerds thing. And like, I just like wanted, it was nothing against Jack. It was just like, I wanted the 3 girls at the end just to be like, ha. You know, 5 girls out, 3 at the end. But I mean, it was hard. Like, I voted for Emily in some ways. And so it was clear that I wanted Emily to win more. I mean, I think Sarah did great. I like Sarah too. That's why I wanted to go to the end with both of them. But I felt like I couldn't just throw in the towel at Final 4. Like, I felt like I had the better story against Sarah. Now, whether or not the jury believed that, and I didn't think they would, I didn't think that the jury would buy that story, but I felt like objectively, like if you're a viewer, like if I were watching this season, I would think that Andrea, would have the better narrative of like my game against Sarah versus Emily. And so I voted out Emily because, in theory, like I voted for Emily because I thought I owed it to myself to fight for it. Even though I knew in my like heart of hearts that no one was going to vote for me, I wanted to fight. And so that's why I voted for Emily, even though I wanted her to win.
In the footage, though, I remember there was a long conversation between you and Paddock saying that you were both going to vote for Sarah to go. And it seems like that was like your legitimate plan until you had like one-on-one time with Sarah and one-on-one time with Jack immediately after. Was that something you were really seriously considering if she was going to do it to vote for Sarah, or were you always going to vote for Paddock?
I think I was always inclined to vote for Paddock, but I wasn't locked. I wasn't 100% sure. I thought it was likely that I was going to vote for Paddock, but she could have convinced me, I think, that like I really did want her to win, and when I knew it wasn't, I mean, like this happens in like Survivor Africa. Like, I mean, like what's her name, Kim? Basically,
Right.
just gives it to Ethan. I was like, here you go, here's your $1 million. Like, I kind of wanted Paddock to win. Like, I thought she was the most underestimated. Like, I underestimated her. Like, I saw her as someone who's like, why would she tell everybody she's 20 years old? Like, and then I meet her, and then I'm like, oh shit, this girl is so smart and so capable.
She's
And like,
good.
she's like a badass. And like,
Ah.
What age should she have told people she was?
oh, like 24.
Yeah, I didn't think.
Stan, could you see yourself working with Paddock, Sarah, and Andrea in a Final Four alliance?
At the start of the game, heck yeah. You know why? Because like, you want to protect yourself with people that are equally as big. I'm not a threat. You know that. I'm like not a threat at all. So like,
Right.
Sure, Stan.
I've flopped a couple of times in games, but like you want people to like protect you. Like, be loyal. I think I think a uniting thing between Andrea, well, maybe not Andrea, but like Paddock and Sarah is they're loyal. Like people want to work with Paddock. You saw in Brooklyn South, she was like loyal to the people. She gets really sneaky at the end. That's typical Paddock. But like she gets to the end because people tend to want to work with her because she's a straight shooter early on. She's an asset in challenges. Andrea, I think if you weren't put in like your back is against the wall super duper early, I think you'd be someone who you would align with as well. I'd be scared to go with the three of them to the end. And Sarah, like likewise, she could have cut Paddock at any point, like
Yeah.
at any point. And I think she was confessioning about it in the final night. She's like, I think I really just sped through the episodes. They're all in a blur, but like she's like, I don't think I can beat Emily. She pulled out an idol here, has an extra vote here, went to exile,
Yeah.
got another idol, played this correctly. Da, 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 da. She has a resume. When do I take her out?
Well, something I have to say about Andrea, Stan, that you kind of touched on, but Andrea, I do think you are an incredibly loyal ally.
Absolutely.
And I watched you play Survivor Brooklyn South as well, and I knew that you were loyal to the people you were working with, even if they didn't keep you in the game.
For 5 seconds, yes.
For 5 seconds. But I think that's something that is a great merit towards your game and just how you are as a player, is that you are always willing to be 100% in with your allies. And that's why it's so funny when they don't recognize that you're telling the truth about the extra vote, is because you're 100% in with them. And I think in a lot of ways it pushes them away from you. And you sort of say, well, they don't trust me. Let me go with the people who do trust me, which is funny enough, the people who put you in that situation to begin with. And I think that you're a wonderfully loyal ally. And I think that's a great trait, is that you are always very enthusiastic with the people you're working with.
Yeah, I think absolutely I agree. I think if it wasn't the fact that you were just like hammered at every single vote, got 14 votes in total cast against you, you would be, because you are. And I think with the Liska situation, and it goes back to the point I made earlier, there's just I think a little too much unnecessary lying deterred a lot of people from trusting you the way that you wanted it. Number one. Number two, as they all went to the jury, they had that kind of premonition about you, like that pre-existing bias that she's this kind of like a untrustworthy schemer type thing. We don't really like her. She wasn't gonna get any votes at the end. That was the, whether or not you played an amazing game, which I think you did. I think your narrative, I didn't know that what the jury thought, but like, had you did not have maybe like 3 unnecessary lies there, and you came in with kind of more of a cleaner slate, but I guess in Chris's eyes, it's not iconic enough to not lie in Survivor.
No, I think and this is something Alex told me as well, like about my game, is like, well, here's the thing. I did lie sometimes unnecessarily, like Liska did. ironically in Brooklyn South, I didn't like it all unnecessarily, and I got voted out first. Like I was just like trying to protect my allies, and like they were like, we're gonna send you like out to pasture. So
Yeah, but that already had that was after
that
this
was after,
season.
yes. Thanks, Emily. But no, I think that like I was very loyal to Emily and Sarah, and I think that like it was like I really did want the people I wanted to win, and I was rooting for Kyle until like I was like, why does Kyle hate me all of a sudden? Like I thought Kyle was like, great. I was like, he was just so likable and friendly, and I thought he was playing a good game, and like I didn't understand why he turned on me, and until I watched it, and I was like, oh.
Yeah,
It's funny. I think that what Jack did to Sarah, not that it was necessarily like a horrible thing. I think Kyle would have done the same thing to you. He wouldn't have voted for you just because he worked with you the whole game. But that's what's so fascinating about this season to me is that we've said it before, it's a season of pairs. And I think that you guys should definitely go back and watch the Kristen and Jack interview, because Kristen talks a lot about the ego of Survivor, or she talks about it and mentions it. And it's a really great point that, like, I think, Andrea, people were going to the jury mad that you were beating them. And you're like, well, sorry, you can't be the best. And you weren't bragging about it, but like that you were essentially beating them when they were failing. And, there's a part of playing Survivor at first where you take that to heart and you're kind of like, how dare this person be better than me? But at the end of the day, I do think that it's interesting. And I love that about this cast is that they're all willing to give you your due and say nowadays, like, we were wrong. We were underestimating her. And we were not recognizing the strength she had in playing the game.
First of all, I'll admit I have not watched all of these things, mostly because I was like too terrified to see what people said about me. But I think that I was happy with the game that I played. But I think there's like a fundamental, like there's a lot of ego in LRGs, and I kind of want to be like at some point, like, dude, y'all are playing LRGs. Like, this is not like the epitome of cool. No offense. I think I mean, like, it's just, it's not like we're all kind of nerds here. And I think there's a lot of ego, and I think Emily has said this to me as well, is like people were kind of mad that you beat them because they saw themselves as like, the threats, and like you were the GOAT, and like I feel like all these like terms and like the like what makes a GOAT, like how do you become a GOAT? I feel like people sometimes
how do you become a goat?
like
I
people
don't know
just
the answer.
people just get branded as goats because of like something in their personality,
I mean,
or
you're absolutely right but it's not the ego of Survivor. I think there's no such thing as a bitter jury, even though I've been burned before by a bitter jury. I've got given wins by it in orgs before when I was younger, given wins by a bitter jury. Of the last org I'll ever play in my life, I dominated the strategic aspect of it. I got one vote. They were so bitter. They hated the way I like, because the problem with that game is I didn't have time to go on Discord and talk about your feelings. I came on 15 minutes before. If you didn't like how I was, like, we flipped the vote, we flipped the script. I did this. I played like very fast in the last 15 minutes, but I didn't have time to like really get to know people. And then when people started throwing my name out because it was relatively inactive, like, don't throw my name out, because if you throw my name out, you're dead. And then that became my mantra. And then people kept on throwing my name out, and I kept on getting them out. And when we got to the final three, they're like, we don't even want to ask Stain a question because he's not going to get our vote. But more importantly, like, I think in juries, it's the way that you are perceived again, is how you can play the best game in the world. Like, Hans played a really pretty awesome strategic game, but he can never win a jury. I don't think he ever will, because he was not liked. Because however he made the people feel on their way out is something that then people, argue that Michelle Fitzgerald in Korong did not deserve her win. But in Michelle Fitzgerald's, credit, she was very liked by the jury. She was liked by enough people in that jury to overlook the fact that Audrey might have played a better strategic game, but they still liked her more. And that is, again, like, I think a part of it is, yeah.
I think you're right to a point, but I think it's also like everybody comes in with their own persona and their own image. And I think that, like, for people like I think Jack and I were perceived as kind of like nerdy and weird. And I think Jack's great. I'm not saying I think Jack is nerdy and weird. I'm just saying, like, the other people, they're like, we don't want to underreact Jack to win. And I think that you have a different climb to win than coming in as someone like Kai or Bennett, who is immediately going to be perceived as like an alpha,
cool kid, right?
Yeah,
like the cool
and
kids.
I think the beauty of that is, I feel like every archetype, every person can win a game of Survivor. Like, as long as I think, in the words of Rob Sesternino, this is like one of my favorite pieces of advice from like old school Amazon, is where, when he like dominated that game, he's like, know where you stand and where they know where they stand and where you think they stand, and where they should know where you stand and where you think you stand. And that's all about self-awareness. And it's so difficult to read exactly what the jury's thinking. Like,
I think that's actually where I think I was completely self-aware. Like, I think I knew exactly what the jury
you
was
exactly
doing.
what you were very, very self-aware. The fact that I'm not winning this. Like,
so I guess my question for you guys is, like, in terms of advice, is there anything, and I asked Queen Anessa this as well. I was like, is there anything I could have done? And she was like, no.
Well, she was, my piece of advice is, I tend to overplay, and when I overplay, I tend to say stuff that I've been burned like that in games before. More importantly, sometimes you at work, I say stuff that I'm not supposed to say. Then you're like, "Argh," and then people take that to heart, and I'm like, oh, I was just joking. So, like, I think a really important, your strategy is perfect, your relationships are fine. Like, it's not that. I think if you tone down the mischief a little bit more, it makes you a little bit more trustworthy. And honestly, another way to kind of avoid if you want to be a villain, and I have been a villain, I'm not a villain anymore, right, Chris? But I used to be. Is like, slit them and just own it. But instead of like, let's just like, but there's like 15 idols hidden. There's an idol here, and you're like, but this is. Then you make like this Bennett clue, and then this tree clue, whatever. Just snake them. Cold.
What do you think, Naomi, Chris?
I think
I'm think about it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that it's an unfortunate series of events, right? One, it's the extra vote sort of makes you seem like a liar, which is tough when you're not thinking about it. I think the other thing is, people love in Survivor to people love to be on the top of the hierarchy, right? Because they want to feel like they're safe, and they want to feel like they're in control, and they can get to the end and win. It's why so many people are shocked when they lose at the end. Mm-hmm. And for you, you knew you were on the bottom, but you were always forcing other people to realize that they were also on the bottom. And I think that they didn't like that, just from an ego standpoint. So do I know the answer to get you the win? No. Do I also think that, like, you're exhausted and you put your 100% energy into everything you do? So you are not only like delirious, but you are also like, yeah, I'll work with you. I'll do whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like, you never stop,
Yeah. I will say I did get to Naomi's favorite part of the season, which is the extra vote confessional with Paddock, where she's like, Davey has an extra vote. And then I like lay out this like elaborate strategy, and she's like, Davey has an extra vote. And I'm like, what? Davey has an extra vote? I was so tired. I want to tell everybody, I had 32 mosquito bites. I was unable to go to work the next day because I was in this like antihistamine fever dream. I was like, and then I like got called in for a meeting and I had to go, and they were like, "Oh my God, you look terrible." And I was like, "I told you I was sick." Like I was like zonked. I was completely out of it. I was like, but I just like never let up. And I was like, I'll admit, I was like, first of all, I want to be clear on one thing. I don't think that my jury people, I don't think they have big egos like as people. I'm talking about like in the context of Survivor, people have like egos in the game. I want to be clear that I like don't think anybody like is like an egomaniac. But I'll say like in terms of I was exhausted, and like there was like a part like after like touchy subjects that I like wanted to go cry behind a bush, and like, but like, what are you gonna do? You just gotta like keep. And I was like, because I felt like I just kind of, part of me wanted to come into this like I wanted to make friends and like have fun, and like then I was like, oh my God, everybody hates me, and like nobody likes me, and nobody.
People still hate you, or they like you now?
It's like going.
They all love her. They all love her from the podcast. They all talk all this good things about her. But that brings up a good point that I wanted to ask you, which is, so you get rocked out, you go face the jury. Do you remember those first few moments, like interacting with that jury at that time?
Completely blacked out. Have no idea what happened.
Okay.
Do they remember? I don't remember.
I don't know.
Everyone else remembers, but I'm just curious about your experience just because I remember at that time, I think you cried after you got voted out, if I'm not mistaken. Like, not trying to bring that back, but you were very emotional, and then the jury at that point seemed very angry toward you for whatever reason. So I'm just trying to relive like why they were so angry toward you at that moment. I don't understand it.
I don't remember the trajectory of when I cried because I was like completely delirious and delusional. So like maybe you guys can remember. I would say like the biggest crying I did was after the game was over. Maybe this is like TMI. I like really cried after the game was over. And like I went up to Emily Forrester and I was like, this was terrible. Everyone hated me. Aww. Like nobody likes me. Nobody. I mean, it's like fucking middle school all over again, right? Oh my God, my parents are gonna watch this. They get mad when my mom gets mad when I swear. Sorry, Mom. But like, you know, it was like that was like where I remember being the most upset. I may have cried after I got voted out, but I wasn't crying because I got voted out. I was crying just because like I think it's like really emotionally difficult to like go through an experience where like everyone like openly hates you.
Yeah.
And I'm not like I would say on season 3 that kind of happened to Anessa, but Anessa and I are completely different people, like psychologically. Like I'm very neurotic and insecure, and Anessa, to her credit, is like completely confident in who she is and is like, I'm awesome, I'm better, like I should have won, like I'm great. Okay, that made her sound like she's not an egomaniac either. I want to be clear. But like Anessa's like very confident in who she is. And so like I just like took it personally in a way that I kind of had to just get over. And I'm still really glad that I like did it and I had this experience. And like, you know, I mean like you know, people like I enjoyed watching it. And I think that like who the jury saw me as, like I think I came off a little better in the, you know, actually seeing it from the bird's eye view. And so like I think like you know, I think that it was really good to see. I was like dreading seeing this season because I was afraid it was just going to be all about like Andrea's terrible, oh my God, how she's still here. And like I feel like I came off as like a scrappy underdog. So hi Kyle.
It was really fun to put together your story, I think, for sure.
Yes. And I would say, Andrea, in another side of things, like what the jury felt at the time, I think was they were so shocked at how they couldn't get you out because they were trying to, but really they were making the wrong move. They shouldn't have been trying to get you out. And, you know, at the end of the day, that's on them. They lost the game because they were focusing so much on you and not focusing on other things. And I think it's what Stan had mentioned earlier, which is like Survivor New York is so fast paced that sometimes you get stuck on something or you're very one track.
Yeah.
And I think that manifested in them becoming sort of upset that they couldn't get you out. But on the whole and whole, I think You made friends with Sarah and Kyle and Paddock and Jack. Like these people.
I do. I love all these. I know this like surprises people, but like I'm like even like people are like, do you and Bennett like really hate each other now? And I'm like, no. Like Bennett and I are chill. Like I see Bennett at the bar. Like I sat next to Bennett at the bar. Like I don't have any like lingering whatever. Like I think like I think I love my castmates. I think that like I would Emily and I have become really good. Paddock have become really good friends as like a result of this, and like I would have never met her before. I will tell everybody, and like this is embarrassing. I voted her for person I never wanted to see again and touch. And she's like one of my really good friends now. And it was I thought, I know this is like insane, but I thought, one, I wanted to vote for someone I thought was also on the outs. And two, it was like, I thought, who am I least likely to ever see again? And I thought, 20-year-old college student in Michigan is probably somebody I'm never going to run into again. And she's like, come and stayed in my apartment. So, what do you know, right?
That's so funny.
But yeah, I feel like towards the end there, I don't know what would have happened if Kyle had made it to the end. If it had been like Kyle and Emily at the end, I would have like had to have listened to their like jury cases. But I felt very loyal to Kyle, even though everyone thought I betrayed him. Like that would have been tough for me. I think I said in voting confessionals for both of them, I would vote for you for the end, but I'm voting for you now. So like, those were two. I felt less close to Sarah. I'm like, I wasn't like not close. I just felt closer to Emily than Sarah in terms of that alliance. And I never got close to Jack really.
Did anyone get super close with Jack?
I think that like, I think that Paddock to an extent, I think Paddock pointed it out in her interview that, and Kyle too, like they understood Jack's humor. Like Jack is a very funny person that you just sort of need to listen to and you will know how funny he is. He is one of my favorite Twitter follows, I have to say. I think it's like JMTRD, I can't remember, but he's so fucking funny. And like, that's something I love about Jack is that he is just this hilarious. I think everybody, this is the thing about this cast. I think everybody likes each other very much. Even if they don't all interact with each other all the time, there is a lot of positivity amongst people.
I think in Survivor New York, period.
Yeah, well, Survivor New York,
three like each other. I think 5 still likes each other.
I would say season 2, probably not, but season 3, 4,
season
5.
Season 2, I feel like they do. Some of them.
Some of them.
But I just want to say
the whole cast.
Really
like
quickly,
season 5 is clingy.
Dan, be quiet, please. I'm not feeling well, so I really need to go. But I just have one question before I go. Andrea, would you play again? That's my last question.
Yeah, I would. I'm not gonna go like on the circuit. Like I'm not ready to like fly all over the country doing these things. Like Stan's like, do it real foot. I can feel like so first of all, I don't want to do one that requires me actually surviving. Like I need y'all to feed me. Because like if you think I'm crazy, like this was like me on food. Me without food is like
you need to go on the real Survivor.
Yeah, I'm
crazy.
I'm sus of real foot. But I would play again. I was ready. I was so pumped to play Brooklyn South when I got voted out first by Emily. And
Paddock?
Yes.
I know that.
I maintain that this was a bad move because I was like totally like I was like not I did not want to vote for her. She like for some reason didn't believe I like whatever.
It was sad. But I'm sorry guys. I'm gonna have to go. I'm so tired. It was so nice to talk to you guys. Love you guys. Have a good night, okay?
Chris, feel better.
Thank you so much.
You're the best host.
Thank you so much.
But you're the best
You're
host.
Awesome. We
I
love you.
Sometimes I just stick
Please
my
let's
foot
hang out.
Yeah,
we'll be back soon.
I'll be back soon.
Good. I'll see you later.
Bye, Chris.
So, guys, just in conclusion, Stan, I wanted to say, do you have a favorite moment from season 4?
My favorite moment was like the final 4 rock doll, which
Oh
is
God.
insane, and the final vote was insane.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that was really really cool. I think the double idol play was really good too, and probably the funniest moment in the season for me was when Paddock climbed the tree and she didn't even get the idol.
No,
This cast brought it, let me tell
Like,
you.
this
yeah,
has to. I did the final. Like the final tribal was super interesting. It's interesting how different like people perceive things. Like I saw like when Emily was like confessed that she'd won before, it like blew my mind, and I was like so impressed. And other people were like, "Oh, I'm not gonna vote for her because she's like I don't want to vote for someone who's gonna win again." And so it was fascinating how like differently people perceived some of the things that were said at Final Tribal. And I think that I went into Final Tribal pretty sure that I was going to vote for Emily, and so but I think other people were a lot more open. Like their votes were really up in there, and they could have voted for anybody.
Yeah.
So.
And last but not least, Andrea, like, how was watching this back for you? Was it therapeutic? Did you get more out of it than you expected?
It was. I was really dreading watching it back because I thought it would be like, I don't know, make me sad to be hated. But I had a great time. I thought it was like I thought it was so much fun. It was totally therapeutic. I love the way that you guys told my story. It felt like very authentic to me. I think that you guys did a great job telling. I think this is something said about like modern Survivor. They're trying to like tell to like have all these like it's not like The Bachelor where you have like the villains and the good people and like it's all like orchestrated or whatever. Like I feel like you guys are trying to tell everyone's story authentic. I mean, no, The Bachelor is totally real.
Their love is very real, Andrea.
Their love is so real. Oh my god, it's so real. They're all going to be together forever. But yeah, I mean, like, it felt like you were telling everyone's story authentically in a way that, like, really, spoke to like who they were. And I was so proud. One thing I didn't say before, I was like 10 years older than everyone else in the final 4.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, Andrea is like, what were you, 33 when you played the season?
32 maybe.
32.
Kyle and I were 32, and like they were all like 22, 24.
Yeah, I'm up your age.
Yeah, I was like I felt like I laughed in the first episode and I'm like, hi, I'm Andrea and I'm 32 but hopefully passing for 27. But yeah, no, I was like tired, like I'm getting gray hairs, guys, like
Me too. Look, gray hairs.
yeah, no, I dye mine, so it's
I need to dye my hair, I guess.
yeah, I mean I already dyed my hair to begin with, so it's like
Old
not,
people problems.
yeah, it's like not really a problem. But yeah, no, I'm like getting gray hair, so I gotta
You need
pluck
to
those
play
things
more
out.
live games, Andrea.
Yeah, more. I want to do.
Like
I want to do
shorter
again.
game.
I think I would really like the opportunity. The problem is you come into all these with like so much baggage, from like how you, like
Played before.
how you played before and people you played with, and like I feel like I would love an opportunity just to like play with people in a vacuum. The problem is like, everyone's gonna have seen this now. And so like there's a preconception.
I think
like
that's a benefit. It's a blessing and a curse. A curse that they know what your game is, but a benefit is people. Now
Yeah.
that was the first game that you played, but now if you see Paddock, who's going to be in every single game, like again, or you saw her already.
Yeah,
but like,
and
if
she
there
voted
was
me out
any
first,
other
but yeah.
person, well, exactly. But we don't talk about that. But if you see someone like Kai or Bennett or
Yeah.
Alejandro, like it's not like it's oh, I've never met you before. It's like, hey, I know you. I know we haven't played close together, and whatever happened in New York. And if anything, take me to the end because you can crush my ass, and that'll be a good thing for you in the future. But there's a bunch of live reality games out there, and I'm not saying do the 8-day one, but there are a lot of shorter ones that if you go deep enough in the country, you're probably not going to know anybody.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
know?
like if I show up in like Canada or whatever, I'm probably not gonna know too many people.
But
But
I think it's fun to kind of play in a game where you don't know anybody. I don't think I'll ever be able to do that again.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I don't care. But like it's cool for that experience if that happens. And
yeah, I would definitely like to just like, I mean, like, I think that's something that would really appeal. I mean, I would definitely play like,
like Maine or Survival Challenge, like a shorter game, like
no, those are ones where you don't get to eat.
oh, fair enough.
Well, Andrea, I actually think on the reverse, I think you would be really funny to watch play Big Brother. And like if there was a Big Brother game where you're just in a house, like I think that would be super hilarious because like
yeah,
you would be like a great ally to have in Big Brother. People know who's against you and who's with you. You're not going to put them up if they're on your side.
I actually don't know how Big Brother works and have never watched Big
that's
Brother.
Right.
Even better.
Even better. So, guys, it's been an hour and 45 minutes. I think.
Yeah. So did I go way too? Did I like? I mean, like I know Anessa's was like 3 hours. Did I go way too long?
No, not at all. But it is 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, I got it.
And I just wanted to say thank you both for being here and also for being an integral part of Survivor New York. You're wonderful people, and I'm so glad that we could talk today. But more importantly, guys, fan favorite voting is going to close at midnight. I'm going to turn that poll off. And we're going to be done. We're going to find out who the fan favorite is of season 4. So if you want to go vote now. That is tinyurl.com/SNY4.
Can I
vote? You can
I voted for you.
You can vote for yourself, actually. That is
good.
fine.
I voted for you.
I'll just also say that soon we will have our all voting confessionals of season 4 coming out. So be on the lookout for that. As well as some season 5 announcements. But if you want to know more about Survivor New York and when we're casting for another game for 2022, join our mailing list, tinyurl.com/SNY2022mail, 2022 mail. We will send you all the information you need to know about Survivor New York. So join our mailing list. Keep in touch. Guys, let's all go to bed. Have a great night.
Love you guys.